There is no facet of the Jewish community that's not important. There's Chesed, there's the Gemach, there's Bikur Cholim, there's Atzola, there's the schools. But without a Kollel, the heart that feeds through the Torah to the wider Jewish community, I don't know if a community would survive.
It's roughly about 48 years now since the doors of the Kollel opened to the community. And in many ways I feel that it shifted the soul of the city. Until then in South Africa there were various communities. The community hailing primarily from Lithuania had brought with it its historical legacy of Torah. But it's only when the Kollel itself got started was the central focus on building a strong indigenous Torah community.
The Kollel is the first outreach program here in South Africa. That was the very first, before anybody else. And that became like a magnet that brought people, many people back. And then today we are already experiencing further generations of that original impact that the Kollel made on the community.
The value of Torah was here because of the Kollel's influence.
The Torah growth of Johannesburg is growing all the time. And the Kollel started it off.
Every place where there's Torah has been set as the core of the community. Those are the communities that grow.
The standards of learning Torah at the Kollel are just as high as any other Kollel around the world.
I could write a book about the Kollel and about the Rosh Kollel, but suffice it to say, if there's one main theme that I took with me and that I take with me, was the Kollel's uncompromising commitment to genuine Jewish education, and at the same time being completely open and accessible.
A lot of times the Kollel is perceived as, the frum place, and some people are scared to even walk in, but it's really not like that.
I think it's very clear to anybody who walks into the walls of the Kollel, has always sensed that feel that you've arrived at the real deal.
Wherever I travel, I meet people who have been impacted on by the Kollel, that are today involved in Jewish education, outreach, Jewish leadership. It's quite astounding that from one small institution like this, so many people have gone out to impact on the Jewish world, and that's really all in tribute to the Rosh Kollel, whose dedication to his students and to his community at large.
The pleasure of being guided by Rabbi Grosnas, who was the straightest and is the straightest person I ever met in my life. No matter what the circumstances were, he would not deviate 1 inch from the MS, and would do everything in his power to avoid machlokas and ensure that, notwithstanding the complexities that were necessary to be dealt with, that the outcome would be shalom and the outcome would be a Kiddush Hashem.
The Rosh Kollel, through his wisdom and his sense of humor, he incorporated everybody.
Really all the Torah and the tremendous proliferation of Torah that we see in our community and towards Cape Town, a lot of it comes from Rosh Hashivas, the Rosh Kollel's involvement.
The connection with the real Torah world all overseas could be felt in his Daladamas, and he managed to give that over to each individual and to the entire community.
Always presenting Torah in the most authentic, real manner, and at the same time a tremendous amount of warmth, care and sensitivity.
Approachable, helpful, have time for you.
Unique blend of insight, depth of understanding, and Mesiras Nefesh.
His whole interest in everybody that came within the ambit of his influence and responsibility was attempting to detect the need of every person. And then, with the abilities that HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed him, his knowledge of Torah, his personality, and his quiet, straight way of dealing with things, he was always, with every person I ever saw him deal with, interested in responding to that person's need and with all his ability.
The warmth, the sincerity, the commitment was eye-opening. It really made a lasting impression upon me.
Person who personified every real value from the real Torah world.
Delivered uncompromising Torah, which is exactly what appealed to us. Rabbi Grossness's, shall we say, full-blooded sense of humor helped as well. But what struck me was their refinement, dignity, pure, uncompromising, unadulterated Torah values, Shabbos experience in their home, getting to know them personally, full integrity from the learning all the way through all aspects of personality that they displayed. That's what it did for us.
The Rosh Kollel allows each person to find his place with his loose hand and his trust in the Yungalite to go and find where they need to grow, personal growth and in the Torah growth.
The tefillas in the Kollel, the Kovod HaTorah in the Kollel, the sincerity in the Kollel for Yiddishkeit without compromise.
He was always the go-to person to really ask advice, both on a personal level and a professional level.
And the sense of humor, the wisdom, very, very, very clever, and understanding that people are different and understand their needs.
As many of you know, I was the principal of Shari Torah from sort of the middle of 2000 for a little over 14 years. And I had actually a very special relationship with the Rosh Kollel during that time. I could speak to him about important issues and complicated issues. And he just had the presence of mind, the level-headedness, and the Masorah to give guidance for me trying to run a Torah institution.
I always felt that Rabbi Grossness was able to answer questions without any personal agenda.
I thank Hashem for guiding me to sit and learn at the feet of such a wise, such a humble, such an insightful giant.
I was very much part of the learning in the Kollel and still feel that connection.
Knows how to, give a smile to every person and talk and just make people feel great. That is something very, very special, and we're going to miss him for that.
He touched everybody's life, and I think that legacy that he left was a legacy that will ensure that Torah will flourish in our community.
There's something about Kollel Yad Sha'ul that is unique and special. Something I said at the outset, its authenticity, its connection with the Torah world, its Masorah, its ability to hand over that tradition that's really been passed down for hundreds of years.
Having a kollel of young men Avreichim sitting and learning full time as a way to build up a community. And I think a lot of other communities have seen the success and seen the growth.
A place to have a shir, a place that they can have a kavusa, a place that they can find a listening ear from a chacham.
To me, it's a part of my life.
And I think that's been a point that that had a lot of influence on the wider community.
The community benefits from that, either directly or even indirectly.
The South African community is constantly benefiting by the existence of this kollel.
And it continues to be a powerhouse, a lighthouse for the community.
One shudders to think of a Johannesburg, of a kollel without the Rosh Kollel. But he always used to tell us, no one's indispensable. And therefore, we can be confident that the roots, the foundations that he's laid will stand the kollel in good stead as it moves into this new phase of its growth and development and impact on world Jewry.
Kollel represents Limud Torah, and without learning Torah, there's no heart to the Jewish people.
Well, it's vital that the kollel continues because the kollel has got a ripple effect on the entire Johannesburg community and the South African community. A kollel is, after all, the center of learning. And as much as today there are many kollelim already in South Africa, Baruch Hashem, which I believe is also an offshoot of this kollel, but the kollel has always been the kollel Yad Shaul.
So for me, Rabbi Grossens and the Kollel represent the real story, and the Kollel Yad Shaul, under the leadership of Rabbi Rubanovich and the whole team around him, should really just go from success to success and continue being the central organization it is in Johannesburg and South African Jewry.